I knew she was lying. My husband's voice echoed across the Veterans Affairs hearing room with such confidence that even the woman typing the official transcript stopped for a second and looked up. He wasn't talking about some stranger. He was talking about me. Daniel Carter stood beside his attorney, wearing the same calm smile I'd watched him wear for 31 years. The smile that used to make me feel safe now made my stomach turn. "She's done this before," he said, shrugging like it was nothing. "Every time somebody challenges her, suddenly she's too sick to continue." A few people in the room exchanged uncomfortable glances. I could feel every pair of eyes settling on me. The administrative judge adjusted his glasses. "Mrs. Carter," he said carefully, "would you like to respond?" I opened my mouth. Nothing. Not one word. A strange pressure tightened across my chest. At first, I thought it was anxiety. Then it spread into my left shoulder. My fingertips started tingling. "No, not now. Please." I reached for the edge of the table, trying to steady myself before anyone noticed. The room suddenly felt 20 degrees hotter. My hearing faded, replaced by a dull ringing inside my ears. Across the room, Daniel folded his arms. His mother, Patricia, leaned over and whispered something that made him smirk. She actually smiled. For months, she insisted I was pretending, lazy, looking for attention, trying to keep Daniel from living his best retirement. I wanted to tell them they were wrong. I wanted to stand up. Instead, my knees gave out. Someone gasped. The hearing room spun violently. Before my face hit the polished floor, a man from the back row rushed forward. "I'm a physician," he shouted. He dropped beside me before anyone else could react. 2 fingers pressed gently against my neck. His expression changed instantly. He looked toward the judge. "Call 911. Nobody moved. I said, "Call 911 now." For one terrifying second, the entire room froze. Then the judge shot to his feet. "Bailiff!" Everything exploded into motion. Chairs scraped across the floor. People rushed toward the exits. Someone yelled for an ambulance. Daniel's smile disappeared. His face turned completely white. The last thing I remember before everything faded into darkness was Patricia taking one slow step backward. For the first time since I'd known her, she looked scared. 3 months earlier, if someone had told me my marriage would end with paramedics wheeling me out of a federal building, I'd have laughed. Not because Daniel and I had a perfect marriage, Lord knows we didn't, but after 31 years together, I honestly believed we still respected each other. Turns out, respect disappears long before love does. My name is Sarah Carter. I'm 54 years old. I served 27 years in the United States Army Medical Service Corps. I wasn't the soldier kicking down doors. I wasn't flying helicopters. I wasn't the one carrying a rifle through desert villages. My job was making sure every wounded service member had the medical supplies they needed before the shooting even started. Bandages, blood, medicine, mobile surgical units. When convoys rolled into combat zones, I made sure they weren't missing a single life-saving crate. Most people never noticed logistics until something went wrong. Then, suddenly, it became the only thing that mattered. The Army taught me something I'd carried through every chapter of my life. Preparation beats panic. Every single time. I just never imagined I'd need that lesson inside my own home. Daniel and I met in 1993 near Fort Bragg. He was a civilian aviation mechanic contracted to repair military transport aircraft. I was a young captain trying to prove I deserved every promotion I'd earned. He made me laugh. He listened. He respected the uniform. At least, that's what I believed. We married 2 years later. No children, not by choice. Simply, life had different plans. Instead, we became everyone's favorite aunt and uncle. Every 4th of July barbecue, every Thanksgiving dinner, every birthday. Our house always had people. Neighbors, friends, military families stationed far from home. Daniel used to tell everyone, Sarah never leaves anybody behind. Back then, I believed he meant it. Retirement changes people. Sometimes quietly, sometimes completely. I retired first, 27 years. One folded flag, one retirement ceremony, one final salute. I thought we'd finally enjoy life together. Road trips, fishing in Tennessee, visiting old army buddies, maybe buying that cabin in Montana we'd talked about for years. Instead, Daniel started spending more time with his mother. Patricia had been widowed almost 15 years. She'd never liked me. Not openly, she was smarter than that. Her insults always came wrapped inside compliments. "Oh, Sarah, I don't know how you managed a marriage while playing soldier all those years." Or, "Daniel sacrificed so much supporting your career." Supporting? We both worked. We both paid bills. We both made sacrifices. Yet somehow, according to Patricia, only Daniel deserved credit. After he retired, she started coming over almost every day. At first, she'd call. Then she'd text. Eventually, she stopped doing either. She'd simply unlock the front door and walk in. Daniel never said a word. One afternoon, I came home from volunteering at the Veterans Hospital and found Patricia sitting in my favorite chair. She was wearing my reading glasses, looking through our bank statements. I stopped in the doorway. "What are you doing?" She looked up, like she'd been caught borrowing a cookbook. "Oh, sweetheart, I was helping Daniel organize things." I looked at Daniel. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "They're our finances," I said. Patricia laughed. "Families shouldn't keep secrets." I forced a smile. "Exactly. So why are you reading documents that don't belong to you?" The room became painfully quiet. Daniel finally spoke. "Mom was just trying to help." Help. That word started appearing a lot. Helping decorate, helping plan vacations, helping choose investments, helping decide which repairs the house needed. Funny thing, her help always meant my opinion no longer mattered. The arguments started small, then grew. One evening, I suggested replacing our leaking roof before winter. "Too expensive," Patricia agreed. Daniel sided with her. Another weekend, I wanted to attend my old commander's retirement ceremony. Patricia sighed dramatically. Married couples shouldn't spend weekends apart. Daniel canceled. Again. It wasn't one huge betrayal. It was thousands of tiny ones, like watching termites eat away at the foundation of a house. You don't notice it until the floor suddenly collapses beneath you. About 6 months later, Daniel came into the kitchen carrying several folders. "We should move some money around." I looked up for my coffee. "What kind of money?" "Our retirement investments." He slid papers across the table. "Just routine paperwork." I skimmed the first page. Something immediately felt off. Years in military logistics had trained my brain to spot missing details. Numbers didn't line up. Account names looked unfamiliar. Whose Evergreen Strategic Holdings? Daniel hesitated. "Investment group. I've never heard of them. They're new. Why haven't we discussed this?" He rubbed the back of his neck. "I already looked into everything. I just need your signature." Need. Not ask. Need. I set the papers back on the table. "I'll read everything tonight." His smile disappeared. "Seriously?" "Yes. You don't trust me?" I looked straight at him. "This isn't about trust. It's about understanding what I'm signing. His jaw tightened. You've always got to be in charge. Before I could answer, the front door opened, no knock, no doorbell, just Patricia. Perfect timing. She walked directly into the kitchen carrying grocery bags. "What's going on?" Daniel sighed loudly. "Sarah won't sign the investment paperwork." Patricia didn't even ask why. She simply looked at me. "There it is." "What?" "The army." I frowned. "What does that mean?" She smiled politely. "You spent too many years giving orders. Now you can't stop." I asked questions. She shrugged. "Normal wives trust their husbands." The words landed like a slap. Normal wives. Daniel chuckled, just a little, barely noticeable, but I heard it. That tiny laugh hurt more than yelling ever could, because it meant he'd already chosen a side, and it wasn't mine. That night, I couldn't sleep. Something deep inside kept whispering, something isn't right. The next morning, I called the one person who had never failed me, Colonel Lisa Monroe, my best friend for almost 25 years. She answered on the second ring. "Sarah, you okay?" I wasn't. Not even close. And somehow, she knew it before I said a single word. She answered on the second ring. "Sarah?" I tried to answer. Instead, I broke. Not crying, not yet. Just silence. Lisa Monroe had known me for 25 years. We'd survived deployments, hurricanes, supply shortages, and the endless chaos that came with Army life. She recognized that silence immediately. "I'm coming over," she said. "You don't have to." "I'm already grabbing my keys." She hung up before I could argue. 40 minutes later, her silver pickup rolled into my driveway. The moment she stepped inside, she looked around the house. Half the family pictures were gone. Daniel had already started packing his things. Or maybe he'd already decided which memories he wanted to keep. Lisa set a bag of takeout on the kitchen counter. "You eat today?" I had coffee. She gave me that colonel look, the one that said I wasn't fooling anybody. Coffee isn't food. For the first time in weeks, someone was taking care of me. I hadn't realized how badly I needed that. Over dinner, I told her everything. The paperwork, the hidden investment company, Patricia moving into our lives, Daniel filing for divorce before I even knew he was talking to a lawyer. When I finally finished, Lisa leaned back in her chair. "Something doesn't add up." "What do you mean?" She folded her arms. "Daniel." "What about him?" "You've been married 31 years. Right? He isn't impulsive." I nodded. "He plans everything." "Exactly." She pointed toward the folder sitting on the table. "So why would a guy who plans everything suddenly forge financial documents?" The question hung in the air. I hadn't thought about it that way. Maybe because I'd been too busy grieving my marriage. Lisa continued. "This isn't about love anymore." "It isn't?" "No." She tapped the folder. "It's about money." About money. The following Monday, I hired Linda Brooks, a former Army JAG officer who had spent almost 15 years handling military divorces after leaving active duty. She reminded me of every attorney I'd ever trusted. Calm, methodical, impossible to intimidate. She read every page I'd brought, every bank statement, every investment document, every retirement account. Nearly 2 hours passed before she finally looked up. "Did you authorize this transfer?" "No." "This one?" "No." "And this LLC?" "I've never even heard of it." "You wouldn't have." "Why?" because they didn't exist. I blinked. What? Linda slid incorporation papers toward me. The company was created 11 months ago. By who? She looked directly into my eyes. Your husband. The room became completely silent. He started a business? Apparently. With our retirement money? Linda nodded, and according to these records, she paused. He listed himself as sole owner. I felt sick. Without telling me? Yes. My voice barely came out. How much? Linda looked down. Approximately $830,000. The air left my lungs. 800,000, nearly everything we'd spent 30 decades building, gone, without a single conversation, without a single signature, without me. Linda quietly spoke. We're also having your signatures examined. You think... I don't think, she interrupted gently. I verify. That night, I sat alone on my back porch watching the sun disappear behind the trees. 31 years. I kept replaying that number. Not because of the money, because I couldn't understand how someone who once held my hand through deployments could secretly build an entirely different future, one that didn't include me. My phone buzzed. Daniel. I stared at the screen, then answered. What? Long silence. I never wanted this. I almost laughed. You forged my signature. I was going to explain. When? Another silence. I thought the business would work. So you gambled our retirement? I was trying to protect us. No, I said quietly. You were protecting yourself. He started crying. Real crying. Not loud, just broken. I didn't think it would get this far. I closed my eyes. It already has. I hung up. For the first time, I realized something. I wasn't crying anymore. I was grieving, and those are two very different things. 3 weeks later, the handwriting expert's report arrived. Linda smiled before she even sat down. I've got good news. It wasn't mine. She nodded. It wasn't yours. Officially, legally, scientifically, someone had forged my signature, and every piece of evidence pointed toward one person, Daniel Carter. Linda closed the file. The judge scheduled the evidentiary hearing. When? She looked at her calendar. 3 weeks. I nodded. 3 weeks. I had no idea that hearing would become the day everything changed forever.